I think one of the most compelling and counterintuitive pieces of wisdom in the book is the notion that change isn't hard because we don't do enough of it, or we're not willing enough to tackle change. We're so happy to switch out the CEO, or swap our strategies, or hire a new set of consultants. We almost have a too much change in the world, and that the leaders that really get it, that really do change in a way that's meaningful, that's sustainable, manage this tension between having an aggressive change agenda and also having a deep appreciation and respect for the past and tradition and the homegrown pathways forward that are already inside the organization. Could you unpack that idea? I think it's so powerful and so important.
I gave a talk a few years ago, and Jim Collins followed me onto the stage. I'm glad it was that way, not the other way around. And he was talking about change and mediocrity and why so many organizations seem so mediocre. And he had a really interesting kind of line that has stuck with me for a long time. And what he said was, the signature of mediocrity is not the unwillingness to change. The signature of mediocrity is chronic inconsistency. And boy, did that hit home with me. You look at most organizations that have been around for 50 or 60 or 100 years, and they're trying to adjust and morph and lead in these new times. And it's like one wave of change strategies comes after the next, from re-engineering to total quality to Six Sigma and on and on and on. And people are just kind of groping or grasping desperately for the silver bullet answer that's going to fix all their problems. And what occurred to me as I studied big, long-established organizations who are unleashing positive change in difficult circumstances is that, first of all, their leadership makes a bold bet on an idea or a set of ideas and a set of values that they stick with no matter what the short-term fluctuations in the environment and so on. But then the second and maybe more important point is, even though they're all about building a discontinuous or disruptive future, that doesn't mean that they disavow or break from the past. In a lot of ways, what they set out to do is rediscover and reinterpret the history of the organization to create the sense of permission and confidence to invent a new future for the organization. I saw this in so many different settings. A fun kind of all-American one is the Girl Scouts of the USA. And Polly, you know this case study as well as I did. And Kathy Cloninger over the last 6 or 7 years has led really a fundamental reimagining of the service offerings and the branding and the uniforms and anything you can think of connected to this kind of ubiquitous but kind of uncool brand, the Girl Scouts, that they're going to celebrate their 100th anniversary next year. And it's been really this incredibly impressive and inspiring change exercise of the Girl Scouts. But it's all rooted in a real appreciation for its history. And one of the early things the Girl Scouts did under Kathy Cloninger is to go back and reread and reacquaint themselves with the business plans, if you will, of Juliette Gordon-Low, the social activist and real firebrand who founded the organization back in 1912. When they said it, my goodness, she was so dynamic, she was so radical in her own way. The group was founded before women had the right to vote in the United States, and you had young girls, running around the woods and doing all this activist sort of stuff. They said if she came back to life today, she would be mortified by how bland and how uninspiring and how plain vanilla, how kind of corporate or mainstream the organization has begun. And so one of the mantras at the Girl Scouts was WWJD, not what would Jesus do, what would Juliette do? And and I think that's true of so many large organizations. Organizations got large because early on there was really something truly original, truly dynamic, truly exciting about what they did, which led to their success. And then generation after generation of leader comes and gets more risk averse, more middle of the road. And so if you can look back in your organization's history, tease out the ideas that really fueled its rise and said, okay, what is the interpretation or expression of those core ideas and values for the era we live in today? Oftentimes, history, the past really can become prologue. History really does point to, and certainly gives a sense of confidence for inventing a new future for the organization.